Solving by factoring when a equals 1. Okay, so when we have a quadratic equation, aka the ax squared plus bx plus c, notice now though we have equals 0. Okay, that's the difference between this task and task 1. We need to solve, which means we're going to have x equals something at the end of our problem. Okay, so how do we solve? Let's look at an example and we'll go through the steps. Alright, so example number 1, x squared plus 9x plus 14. Now notice we're back to a equaling 1, right? So that's task 1. So we just do diamond for this one, no box, okay? So draw our diamond. 14 is going to go on top, 9 on the bottom. Okay, both of our puzzle pieces are going to be positive, and we're going to find that it's going to be positive 7 and positive 2, because 7 plus 2 is 9, 7 times 2 is 14. And then we need to factor it, which means we just use our fancy parentheses, right? So x plus 7 because they're positive, x plus 2 because it's positive. Now remember, it still equals 0, right? That's our new thing for this task. So because of it equaling 0, we need to use the zero product property. And what the zero product property means is we basically set each part, the two parts being x plus 7, x plus 2, and we need to set these parts equal to 0 separately, okay? So we're going to set x plus 7 equal to 0, and totally separately we're going to set x plus 2 equal to 0. Now if you need more of a refresher on the zero product property, we talked about it all the way back in part 1, task 5. Okay, so you can look at that video if you need to. Now from here we just draw a line and solve for x. So remember, get x by itself, we want to subtract 7. What you do on one side, you have to do on the other side. Okay, so we get x equals negative 7. That's one of our answers. Alright, over here we subtract 2, so we get x equals negative 2. That's another one of our answers. Okay, so how many answers do we have with these problems? We can have 2 answers with these problems. Okay, so we get x equals 7 and x equals negative 7, and x equals negative 2. So not much different here. We're just adding an extra step after the diamond. Okay. All right. So for problems like this, x squared minus 4x equals 12. We have to first get the quadratic equation to equal 0. And how do we do that? Well, we have to get rid of this 12 and move it to the other side. Okay, so draw our line. How do I move this 12? Well, opposite operation, minus 12 minus 12. So we get x squared minus 4x minus 12. We can't combine that negative 12 with anything, so we just plop it on the end there. And then over here they cancel, so we're left with 0. That's what we wanted. We wanted the quadratic to equal 0, and you have to do that before you do the diamond. Okay, so now we do diamond. Negative 12 up here, negative 4 down here. We need one of these to be positive, one of these to be negative, and it's going to be negative 6 and 2. Write it in factored form. Remember, it equals 0. Now we use the zero product property, right, to set each part. I'm going to move this up, actually. Oh, no, I can't. To set each part equal to 0 separately. Okay, so x minus 6 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. And then we solve each of these. Add 6 to both sides. We get x equals positive 6. Subtract 2 from both sides here. So we get x equals negative 2. And those are our two final answers. Okay, example 3. What's the problem with this? Well, we don't have equals 0 on the left hand or on the right hand side. We need this to happen before we can do diamond. Okay, so let's draw our line. In this case, we need to move over the negative 3x and the 4. Okay, so I'm going to do it all in one swoop. I'm going to say plus 3x. We're going to add 3x over here. And I'm going to say minus 4. And we're going to subtract 4 over here. Okay, now all of these things are not like terms. So let's just plop them all next to each other. X squared plus 3x minus 4. And that's going to equal, well, the whole point of opposite operations over here is they all cancel, and we're left with 0. That's what we wanted. Now from here, what can I do? I can do the diamond. Negative 4 goes up top, 3 on the bottom. Okay, now we want things to multiply to negative 4, add to 3, and we end up getting 4 and negative 1. Put it into factored form over here. X plus 4 times x minus 1. Remember, it's equal to 0. Now what do? We're going to use the zero product property, right? So take each part, set them equal to 0 separately. X plus 4 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. And solve each equation. So we're going to subtract 4 here. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we get x equals negative 4. That's one of my answers. Am I done yet? Well, no, because you need to get two answers here, okay? So I plus 1 both sides on this guy, and I get x equals 1. And those are my two answers. One more problem, I believe. X squared plus 3x minus 1 equals 5. All right, this is a little bit different as well, but remember, our goal is equals 0, okay? So I need this 5 to turn into a 0. How do I do that? Well, let's just move the 5 to the other side. So negative 5 to both sides, okay? These are going to cancel over here. Then I'm left with, on the left-hand side, x squared plus 3x. Now, in the past two examples, we haven't had like terms to combine. But negative 1 and negative 5, those are like terms, right? We can put those together. We can merge them into one. Okay, and when we do that, we get negative 6. Okay, and now that equals 0. Now we have the okay to do the diamond method, right? So negative 6 goes on top, 3 goes on the bottom. Now, is there anything that multiplies to negative 6 that also adds to 3? This one might stump you for a little bit, but it turns out there's nothing in math that multiplies to the top and adds to the bottom. So in this case, our answer is going to be not factorable, right? So remember, this is still something that can happen from task 1. We can have problems that we're not able to factor, therefore we're not able to solve.